be the one to break it to you, but sex education of the past failed us. Because birds and bees, they don't fuck. Welcome to Birds and Bees Don't Fuck, a podcast where we learn exactly how bad our formative sex education, or lack thereof, really was. I'm your host, Ariel Zadok. I'm a producer, intimacy coordinator, and sex educator. My guest today is a BDSM coach, educator, and author. Welcome to the show, Emily Ann. Yay! I am so happy that you're here.
Me too. This is so fun.
Yeah. What's really fun is that we met at a sex event.
We did. We met at a sex event. There wasn't sex happening in the room.
But sex has happened in that room because we were at 910 WeHo.
Yes, which I haven't been in that room other than the night that we met.
I have. I work on play parties that happen there. So
you told me
sex
that's
in that room.
Yeah, I was gonna say you told me. I'm like I want to be friends with her.
Yeah. I know. We sat next to each other for yoga, and immediately we were like,
yeah. I'm like, oh no. We had to try to shut up because we're
oh, we have to be serious now.
We're doing it. We're doing the yoga. We're gonna ground into the yoga, but we really want to talk about this.
So we want to talk.
Yeah.
It's fun how we find each other. It's kind of like New Yorkers. New Yorkers always find each other, and sexuality professionals always find each other.
Yes, for sure. And I like that. I think it's kind of like with me with kinky people in a room. I will find at least the one kinky person in a room.
Yeah,
and I'm simpatico with them.
I see you.
I see you in what's it called? Oh, The Way of Water. What am I thinking? Avatar.
Oh,
when they love each other, when they're saying I love, the native way of saying I love each other in that movie is I see you,
which is so beautiful.
It's really beautiful
because truly to love someone is to see them.
Yep.
Not only to see them, but I think it's to accept them. I think a lot of times when people come into relationships, I know for sure that we all make up stories and we meet someone and we're immediately like, they're this or they're that. Or
it's called projection.
Yes. Yeah. And you're going to be this person to me. And whatever, we target them. And there's a level of it that you need to accept people for exactly who they are when they come to you, because that's exactly who they are. And they're not going to change. Maybe they do. I mean, we all live many, many lifetimes and we all change over time, but we have to accept the people that are exactly as they are right in front of us. And it doesn't mean that we need to push through our boundaries or accept things that are not acceptable to us in relationship, or be treated in ways that we don't think is okay for us, that are beyond our boundaries. That's our job to step away from it. But people, we're always wanting to change people and we're always falling in love with possibility and this and that. It's to love someone is to see them and accept them as they are. You can want better for them, absolutely, but it's not your job to change them or to love them based off of, I'll love you if, or when, or whatever. And so, oh God, we do that all the time.
All the time. And I'm guilty of it. It's a human nature thing. A lot of times we project onto people, especially when we're triggered. That's the time.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's why I find kink and BDSM to be an unmasking process, where we're sharing our erotic interiors, some of our deepest, darkest secrets, to someone, and normalizing the conversation around that, I think, is really bonding. At least that's what I find in my coaching and teaching. So
yeah, it is, because again, it's to be seen. And when it comes to kink and BDSM, besides the fact that there's so much misinformation, there's so much shame because of the misinformation, but there's so much shame. We're in the shadows of it, and people okay, you like to get peed on. That's okay. That's fine. As long as you can find someone to do it consensually, no problem.
Yeah.
Without coercion or anything like that. And guess what? There are plenty of people out there that are like, I want to pee on a motherfucker. And that's great. And that's beautiful. And that's, that is the magic of community and finding spaces where you can be free. And I know that the listeners can't see this, but the people who are watching on YouTube have noticed by now that Emily is not being fully seen right now.
Oh, does that mean that I won't be loved if I'm not fully seen?
No, you are. You are very much loved.
Thank you.
I see you,
so
and I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
But I think it's worth noting because this is what happens so often. within sex education, within the sex communities, within sex workers, is that we have two personas for a plethora of different reasons. For some people, it's for safety. For some people, it's for monetization. And other people, it's just a preference. Some people just want to keep it separate, and that's totally legit. But I think it's something that's really important for people to understand, that it is really hard still to work in sexuality and be able to pretty much do whatever the fuck you want as if you were doing any other business. It is an interesting, it's a reality that still exists.
Right. And I think there are, there's a reality, like this business is different than just a regular straight up vanilla business. So there's like visibility issues, there's security issues, there's branding issues. And just to be clear, like I'm working within the constraints of my own personal security and like how that works for me so that I can serve my community the best I can with the full resources. Because when I teach and coach, they have full access to me. But the content I put out in the public world, I'm sort of like maintaining a sense of control over, aspects of it for now, and it may change in the future. So yeah, but it is difficult. And you were just talking about Instagram, and you can describe what happened on Instagram, because I've been kind of an Instagram like avoidant lately. But like I see my friends, who I very much encourage anyone who is fully face forward in this business, because like they have to take a hit. They're taking a hit on the chin all the time, and we need to stick up for them, especially if you follow someone in this field who has given you, edutainment information on Instagram. Like those are the times you need to stand up and like report things, tell Instagram we want these people protected. And you can describe to me like what might have happened, but like it's a sort of thing that happens all the time, which is, how do I want to put it? I don't want to get super political here, but let's just
sex and politics are intrinsically connected.
I mean, I'm sure most people notice a trend of the quashing of the feminine sexuality and femme, queer, non-binary sexuality space. They are typically targeted for the kinds of things that are happening on Instagram with shadow banning and all sorts of things. Whereas on the male centric side, those, if they can use sex to sell something, that is fully vetted and fully allowed. So yeah. So what happened? Tell me what happened.
Yeah. So this was part of the great deplatforming of 2023.
Oh God.
It was late in June, I believe. We're in July at the time of this recording. So yeah, it was late in June, about a month ago, actually, exactly a month ago.
Wow, it's recent.
Yeah, there was a mass deplatforming of kink, sex forward, LGBTQIA plus, and pole accounts. Basically, a lot of sex positive accounts were just deplatformed, taken down, suspended, no notice. It was called, for mine specifically, so this was on my pole dancing account that was a public account.
Right.
It was, hi Ruby.
Hey, Ruby.
It was don't step on anything. We're recording. One day okay. she's gonna turn off the recording, I swear. Shout out to Riverside FM for making it hard for her to do that, though.
She almost has gone on the keyboard.
I know. And I have Rosie under me. Everyone's here today.
Power play. Yeah.
Yeah. She's just
putting her ass right in there.
Get out of here. Okay. Sorry.
Okay. Yes. Deplatforming. So did you get an email saying, hey, this is why?
No. So there's just like teeny tiny fine print that was like, sexual solicitation. So my account, I had less than 1,000 followers. It's not an account that I really push on or anything like that. It was a personal account for years and years and years. When I lived in New Zealand, it was all of that stuff. I got the account in like 2011 or 12 when Instagram first started.
Wow.
So it had memories, like all these memories, like 8-9 years of memories, and then only like 2 or 3 years of pole dancing.
Right.
But now it's like, it is where I track my pole journey. If I'm doing classes, I'll share that there. Like, it's all pole. But it's so much of it is just like my journey of my growth, or like maybe if I get injured or whatever, just like, it's just sharing that journey there. So taken down with no notice. And later, a few days later, I found out that it was part of this mass deplatforming, and it had happened to oh gosh, there was a kink community that was taken down in Germany. There were a whole bunch of pole dancers. There were oh gosh, it was something about, oh, Make Love Not Porn. They were taken down. Wired covered it, Fast Company covered it, Cosmo covered it, a bunch of it, because immediately I was like, okay, this is a private company. They can do whatever the fuck they want to do, but the media should be covering this.
Yep.
Thankfully, these bigger brands that have thousands and thousands and thousands of followers, they were already on it, and they got their accounts restored because they had Wired and Fast Company calling Instagram being like, hey, what's up with this? And his spokesperson was like, oh, it's just a glitch, which was absolutely not the case. So what I did was that I wound up getting verified on my primary account, which I did not want to do because I really didn't want to pay for a blue check. I'm like, that's dumb.
Oh, yeah.
But someone was like, you're going to get better customer service. So I got verified on my personal account.
I heard about this. Okay.
Yeah. And then
I love the strategies.
you got to strategize.
Yeah.
So then I went through and asked for help, and they were like, okay, we'll look into it, whatever. Wound up going back and forth in an email. This whole process for me was about 2 weeks, countless emails. I had at one point, midway through the process, I was making a timeline so that I could reach out to media outlets as well. Because after a few days of back and forth, they would not give me my account back. They would not tell me what was going on. They're like, we can't give you the details, but it's community violations. And I went community guideline by community guideline. And I was like, there's no evidence of this. There's no evidence of that. Da, 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 da. All of this. But again, they're a private company. They could do whatever the fuck they want to do.
They didn't tell you which guideline it was a violation?
No, they will not. Like, and they're like, no, sorry, we can't do it. Because I'm like, can you tell me specifically?
Yeah.
They can't do that. At some point, I was like, okay, well, I'm a California resident, and in the state of California, I almost said country. In the state of California, it feels like that sometimes. It kind of is. In the state of California, there are data privacy laws, and so there is the California Consumer Privacy Act.
Yep.
So I knew that I had a legal right to my data. So they had to give me my data. So the conversation switched from, I want my account back because I haven't violated anything, because again, they're a private company. There's nothing I can do.
So you better give me my data.
Yeah. So then I'm in a back and forth with them about my data. And at this point, it became so crystal clear that I was absolutely just being responded to with template emails, because they were not addressing the things that I was saying. They were like, we can't, blah, 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 from Paris, from this guy, I'm like, what? So then I started tracking it, and every single request I said, this is my second request for my data. This is my fifth request for my data. This is my 10th request for my data. I got through to Facebook privacy team. And at this point, I'm like, this is my 13th request for my data, and I will be filing with the state in 24 hours. And I kept saying, I'm going to be filing with the state. You have this amount of time, blah, blah, blah. And they kept responding with the bot. And I said, I'm not trying to get my account back. Here are ways that you can give me my data, but you are legally required to give me my data. Eventually, after 13 requests and filing with the state, my account was reinstated. It's now private. I changed the photo, so it's not a picture of me. It was like a silhouette with me against a pole, fully clothed silhouette. I changed the photo to something different. I made it private, and I removed any links on there. I just changed the whole thing, and like I have, and the only people I'm gonna let onto that account, it's at Champagne Womb, will be people that I know. Like if I know you personally, no problem. Right. I will let you on. But outside of that, I'm like, I don't know if this was because it was reported. I don't know if it was because the account was connected to Facebook. It was definitely a part of the mass deplatforming. But the thing is, I mean, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything like that. I've been a producer for 20 fucking years. There's something I know called cover yo ass, and I know my legal rights, and I know how to talk to big companies. I just spent 3 years at the biggest media corporation in the world. I know what I'm against.
Yeah.
And I also know what the boundaries are, and that the media is ultimately the way to go with these things, because nobody wants bad press like that. So I was at the point where I was going to go to the media about the privacy piece of it, which, listen, I might still at some point, but it was emotionally exhausting. It was physically exhausting. It was mentally exhausting. I mean, when I was at like 8 requests at this point, I had 32 documents in a folder of proof of this thing to go along with my 6-page timeline. Yeah. Do not fuck with me. Like,
so I want to ask a question.
Yeah.
yeah, you said it was emotionally draining. Like all of that stuff is like this, you know, feeling like lack of power, just like going up against a big corporation and like nobody's listening to you or whatever. But I want to know, like, how did your sacral feel, your sacral area feel about the content with which you were expressing yourself and the fact that you were shut down? Did you have any, can you feel into any feelings around, you know, why you feel like it was shut down and how that feels in your body?
It was shut down because it was pole dancing. If I was dancing on a horizontal
Right.
pole again versus a vertical pole, it would not have been taken down. If it was, if I was sharing content that was for the male gaze, it would not have been taken down. But because it was a femme presenting person who was sharing art against a pole, that's what the problem was.
Yeah.
And again, like I was a part of a massive sweep, and I'm in a position of privilege where I have the time and I have the knowledge to fight against these things, but the average person doesn't. They're just like, oh my God, I just lost everything. Right. So same as the privilege of having 400,000 followers and a media tie.
Yeah.
They have a different privilege. I have a different privilege. Not everybody has that, which is also why I was like fighting so hard and sharing so much of the story. It felt horrible in my body, but it was more of, I knew about shadow banning and all of this stuff because, of course, again, working in sexuality, we're hyper aware of these things. We all know that when we step into this world, whatever we choose to do, whether it's education, work, pole dancing, whatever it is, we already know that we are up against every system that exists, that we will get shadow banned, that we will get taken down, that we will have to fight trolls, that we will have to do all of those things. So for me, going through this process, I was so upset about losing all of this other stuff. And I was like, I should have been fucking smarter. I should have just had this account as private, which is not how I should feel about that.
No,
right? Like I shouldn't have been private.
Be about you. This is not about you.
100%.
Yeah. And like, I think this is also tied into how we treat the Mother Gaia, not to get all woo woo on you, but like, I just want to support you as a fellow sister, you know, in your femininity and your female, in your sexuality, that you have a right to express that however you want. And you just continuing to do what you do is a protest against the kinds of, you know, rigid, let's call it left brainish sort of like sense of control over things that we exhibit over the planet. Like we just use resources and try to control nature and, you know, discard her, you know? And so I think, you know, I think there's a lot to be said about having community around this. You know, you know, Nadej, Pleasure Science, she and I are working together on a grouping of trainings and putting together a community called Bliss Business, which is bringing all sexuality professionals together because it is different. We are dealing with things that are different, and just to recognize that it has its own set of challenges and that there's lots of community there. That's why we, we tend to like stick together and bond. But yeah.
I mean, even in the ways that you receive money, because a lot of credit card companies won't let you process credit cards.
That's a huge, somebody out there, like, I don't have the bandwidth right now, but I've talked to people about starting a processing company that can cater to, you know, sex educators and people, to give them, you know, support and the security of knowing that the rug won't just be pulled up out from under them. I've talked to private ones. I remember when I was setting up Stripe, I sent like 3 different emails ahead of time. I'm like, I know you say this is okay, but this is exactly what I'm doing on my site. I'm educating, whatever. Are you sure? Like, cause I don't, and they're like, yes. I'm like, okay. But still, like, I shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
The barriers to entry for people to work in any aspect of sexuality is just so high. And that's why, you know, again, I think there's a conversation around privilege that exists here. Because unless you have the time, money, education, resources, community, all of those things, it's really, really hard to do this work. And that's outside of certifications and you know, how expensive it is. I mean, I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on my certifications. So, and I'm continuing to spend thousands of dollars on my certifications to make sure that I am, you know, as knowledgeable as I need to be in order to serve. not everyone has access to that. And a lot
Right.
of programs do thankfully have scholarship programs, and they absolutely should, because we do need different people from different perspectives and different communities and different poverty levels and all of that to be teaching this work. You know, we need all of the different voices and lenses and all of that.
Yeah.
So just to shift gears in terms of, you know, we're kind of coming into like where people are from and all of that. Where did you grow up?
Oh gosh, I grew up in a small farming town in Pacific Northwest.
Ooh, beautiful.
Yes. Farm girl town.
Yeah. How many people were in the schools that you went to?
My class was like 40 graduating. Yes. It was very religious, small town. Yes.
Yeah, that comes up all the time.
Yep.
Oh boy. So was it a I was going to say, was it a public school? But so often, even if it's a public school and that's the community, then like the public and religion don't really separate.
They don't. Yeah, it was a public. Yeah. But I mean, I think they did a good job. there wasn't proselytizing in school really.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
What do you remember from sex ed growing up?
You know, there's okay. So official sex ed, I don't remember a lot. I must have blanked it out or something, but official sex ed, it seems like I had something in junior high, and I can picture the exact room we had, but I don't remember. So the main thing I remember is like taught. It just was, you know, a small town. It's like taught by you know, a teacher who did math or something else, and this was just a chance for them to make extra money.
Yeah,
so it's not like,
yeah.
It's not like they went, okay, I'm going to go study sex, you know, sexuality, and I'm going to, you know, and this is how, like, you know, how do you teach students at a particular age, because our brains are different at different ages, right? And so junior high, you're going through puberty or whatever. No, it's just somebody who might have done driver's ed or whatever. Like literally, like
they're just like, listen, I need some money, so
like,
I'll take it.
Extra thing. So I don't remember much from the official thing other than like, don't do it. You know, pretty simple. Like, don't do it. Bad things will happen. You can, you know, you get pregnant. And then later it was sort of like the STI. And like, look, I'm Gen X, so everything about sex was like AIDS. Like, you just like, you're gonna die. Like, you're gonna either have a baby and like your life is gonna be over because you're gonna whatever, and you're gonna die. So, or, you know, and then on the religion side, you're gonna, it wasn't like go to hell, but like you're gonna really disappoint God, you know.
Oh, it's the disappointed parent.
So
oh no. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. Love Jesus.
Like, you do not want to hear, like, I have, and now I fuck Jesus and like orgasm practice. It's amazing. We'll talk about kinkifying things, but anyway.
Ooh, I love that.
He's hot.
Yeah, right? Like, what the fuck is that about?
Hot. Yeah. Oof. Yeah. I haven't read all the stuff with Mary Magdalene, like, so I'm not up on this, you know, the alternate Jesus version, but but in my mind, he's pretty hot. Anyway, but oh, sorry, I shouldn't make those noises. Like, woo. No, you know, this is awful, but I guess I have a lot of awful stories that aren't funny.
That's sex, though. You know, like
so,
we grew up having a lot of awful stories, unfortunately.
So yes, and it was so, oh God. You know, I was a good girl. All right. I'm a rule follower, and I did, you know, I was late to the game of any kind of sexual contact or anything, but which makes this story really even more like exasperating. But here's just an example. So I got in high school, and I really didn't have boyfriends officially like until a senior in high school, and I had a boyfriend. And the only thing we could do was like make out at night. Like, he lived on a farm like way on the other side of town, so we like would drive and like make out in our cars in the middle of nowhere.
Very farm town.
It's really awesome. Yeah. And like, he gave me a hickey once before like Christmas or something. I was so pissed. And now, to my parents' credit, like, they didn't really say anything, but my dad found out from his buddy who was on the school board that after that, I was a straight A student, like leader of the whatever. After that, the teachers were kind of disappointed in me that and I wasn't having, everyone else was having sex and I wasn't having sex. But because of this heavy petting, like a hickey thing, like apparently, and like, I'm like, why? My dad shouldn't have told me why is this a discussion at the freaking school board meeting?
Yeah,
anyway,
that's so gross. Like the fact that you're talking about children at a school board meeting having sexual encounters of any kind is like, was it on school property? Did a teacher catch them? Why the fuck are you talking about that? Like, that's disgusting.
Maybe it's them. I don't know. I'm thinking it's them.
It's absolutely them.
I think it's them. Like, and if
absolutely them.
I would like to think that maybe somebody got off on that.
I absolutely think so.
Yeah,
I absolutely
at least
think
it was
so.
been for something fun, but for me it was
but
not
problematic because it's pedophilia.
Well, oh right, that's true.
Yeah,
yeah,
you're teenagers.
That's true.
Yeah, you're children.
No, yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah, that's good.
Bunch of men on a school board talking about kids.
That's true.
That were not on the school property. Like that's the problem.
It's kind of moving towards 18, but yeah, that you're right.
Still 18.
Yeah.
A room full of men talking about 18-year-olds heavy petting is still a fucking problem, even though they're 18.
We got to find the notes to that somebody had to have taken. Like, I'm gonna go back and find out who was the secretary at that board meeting. Find the notes. Oh my god!
Emily was found to have
a hickey
bruises on her neck in the form of a mouth.
Yes.
We find that concerning.
Yes, it's concerning. Yes, we report to all her teachers. Like,
that's such gross behavior on account of those adults.
I mean,
absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, there's more.
Of course, there's always more. But wait, there's more.
There's more. I mean,
shout out to my good friend Billy Mays.
I mean, I don't know about you, but like some of these things just come back to you and go, it was funny at the time. Wait, that's weird.
Yeah, and your perspective as an adult, you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
As a kid, you're like, ha ha ha, because you feel like you're so old. But then when you look back at it as an adult, you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
What?
No.
What were y'all doing?
Yeah. So as far as like my sex education, like everything that I was like imprinted on before I even got to college was, sex is dangerous because you'll get socially outed or, so it's like puts you in this sort of box. And like, now I'm, after having experience, I mean, we'll get into how I got experience, but I recognize things like the Madonna Whore Complex, which is deeply embedded. And that's part of the Instagram thing, which is, it's the people at Instagram who deplatformed all of those accounts, probably don't view their wives as sexual beings. And if just Google Madonna Whore Complex, I don't have all the time, Lord, you got to just really just read it. Cause I'm writing a book called My Year of Fucking Dangerously right now. And I'm
look out for it.
Yeah. And I don't know if you want me to get into this stuff. But
let's do it.
Okay. Well, I'm a switch, which means I can be dominant or submissive in the bedroom in BDSM terms. And as a dom, I'm a mommy dom. So there's like a, kinky mothering aspect to this. And so, the part of the book I've been writing lately is like the mommy doming part. And some of the Madonna Whore Complex ties into that as well. So it's just this idea of segmenting. And you see it out there in dating all the time. As a kinky dater, it's a guy I've seen there's a brute saint complex as well. So it's not just men doing this, but like segregating like respect from sexuality in like look, my sluttiness should be like give you the most respect, and I only
100%. 100%.
Like the skills I have, like
trained labor, okay?
Yes,
skilled labor, as I had an ex say it once.
That's awesome. Yeah, totally. I mean that, and just the power that comes from a woman or a person when they're tapped into their sexuality should be something that's revered. But there's a long history of like denying that because it is so powerful. And that's why we have the witch wound, the witches are burned at the stake. They were just like, some of them weren't even like witches. They didn't have witch after their name. They're just like women who were openly sexual or knew how to use herbs to heal people, or like kind of used like magical energy tools to heal people. And, the
Just stood
powers
in
that
their
be.
power.
Right.
They stood in their confidence.
Right.
They stood in who the fuck they
Right.
were.
Right. Right.
And it's very threatening.
Right.
It's very, very threatening.
Right.
But there's also, there's definitely that separation of like, well, you can't be a wife and I can't marry the person that I fuck. Like,
Right.
what?
Yeah.
So you want to spend the rest of your life with someone who you don't have good sex with, which by the way, I have found over and over and over again that so many people do. And to be fair,
Yep.
different people have different values. Some people, it's not the thing that's important, and they would rather have someone who is their best friend, or someone who's a good business partner, or someone who's a good house partner. And maybe eventually they find their way to non-monogamy. Maybe they don't, whatever. I understand that everyone has different values, but what we are both speaking about specifically is this separation of, if you fuck good, then you're not worthy of love. Then you're not worthy of a robust romantic relationship. It's like you can't, there is a culture around not having both. And I think I started to mention this earlier, when we first meet people, even before we even meet them in person, but we meet someone and immediately we're like, that's husband material, that's girlfriend material.
Yes.
Oh, I'm just going to fuck her, or they're just going to be my plaything or whatever. But we don't actually give time and space and air for a relationship to be whatever it's going to be and reveal itself to us. Instead, we meet people and we immediately categorize them as if they can't be more than one thing, as if it can't shift, as if this first meeting with them, that this is a person that you don't know anything about this person. How could you possibly say that this is a person worth fucking marrying?
Right.
What?
Right.
Maybe the person that you're saying, oh, this is husband material, is actually the one that you just want to have some hot kinky sex with for a while. And then that's your relationship, is that you just meet once a month and have some great sex.
Right.
But you're not allowing space for that to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think it's just sort of like this, we're all really driven in our minds now. We're not down in our hearts and our bodies, especially like with all of, our phones and everything is like pulling us into our mind. And, that's why everyone's freaked out about AI. But I'm like, that's another story. But anyway, so I don't think people are doing it on purpose. I don't think a dude is going, I'm just going to, and I'm going to, whatever. It's an automatic schism that has been happening. And as Freud talked about it, look, so, and it's actually not just their relationship to the femme or feminine energy, it's their relationship to sex.
Oh yeah.
And men, as boys were like, had to like, they do this adrenaline, dopamine jerking off, quickly before their mom catches them thing. So what happens is, because of their view of sex, it's sort of like if they, it's hard for them to, I mean, a lot of the coaching I do is couples who come to me who, they find BDSM coaches like, oh, I'm going to learn how to spice up the sex life. And I'm like, I get them in a Zoom room together, and it like really deepens the intimacy because they're finally opening up to the other person about desires and like letting themselves desire each other. Like, you might have married someone that you just like thought they were great, but people are infinitely unknowable, and you are sitting on a gold. I would just want to tell anyone who's like in a committed relationship, you're sitting on a potential gold mine if you're willing to be curious and like and share. Like, oh gosh, it's scary to share that, but to share, that the erotic interior, that erotic innocence with your partner. And it's a deeply like intimacy inducing exercise anyway. So, but if we keep that dichotomy, what happens is we've got, two people who are not bonding together in sex. It's sort of like sex is over here and I can have these, fantasies, and like, I'm going to get on an OnlyFans, I'm going to get on porn and, all sorts of things. And then I'm not going to look at my wife or my partner as a sexual being. And look, I did it. I was in a relationship for 14 years and I loved him. But the last 8 years, we probably had sex once a year. And I thought I was frigid. I thought there was something wrong with me.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens. We blame ourselves, right? Especially as women, we think we're broken.
Yes.
Oh,
Right.
because women can't be horny because we don't have sex drives, which is like,
Right.
that's not even a thing. But it's,
Yeah, for sure. And then I didn't even know what kinky was. I got out of it and I I even like went to a body work yogi guy, and he like hummed in my vagina, like,
Ooh, that sounds
so
fun.
yeah. Yeah, I was
I'll
kind
take
of
his number.
looking back, I'm like, why didn't I go a little forward? But no, it's fine. Just like I realized I was so scared. I realized I was going to be opening myself up to have sex with. I'm hetero-romantic. I'm now, I guess, I'm not really sure I'm just kinky, which means I fuck everyone. But in my mind, this is what, but I'm hetero. Anyway, I was going to be having sex, and it opened me up. And once I opened up, I realized I was kinky. And then I just really went to town. So yeah, that's what happened.
I think it's scary to even allow yourself to see yourself.
Yeah.
Because and everything that we're talking about here is all
Mm-hmm.
cultural conditioning.
Yeah.
It's
A lot
all
of it
cultural
is.
conditioning.
Yeah.
It's rooted in purity culture because there is no separation of church and state in this country or really any other country, to be honest with you. Like all of us have, wherever we are in the world, we've all grown up with this purity culture and it shows up in different ways in different cultures. But at the end of the day, it is this purity thing and this idea of virginity, which all ties back into ownership of uteruses and ownership of offspring for land. All of that can be tied. So it's all capitalism and all this shit, right? And like white supremacy too. Hello.
Yes.
All of this stuff is so,
colonialism.
Yeah, I mean, it's so layered. In order to have the conversations around sexuality, we need to understand capitalism. We need to understand misogyny. We need to understand patriarchy. We need to understand racism. We need to understand all of these things because it informs how we feel about our bodies, how we feel about kink, how we feel about sex, how we feel about sharing and what we do and we don't share. It's so interconnected that we have to talk about these things, And so I think to a degree, allowing yourself to be seen by yourself and accepting the things that you do find pleasurable is fucking terrifying for most people. For so many people, forget about letting a professional or your partner, I think the first layer is kind of like the layers are kind of interchangeable between professional and yourself because you oftentimes need a professional in order to allow yourself to see things. You can't always do it on your own. That's why, therapy coaches, educators, all of these people are just so important. But then to let someone that you love that has this idea of you, or you have an idea of what the idea of they have. It's like
exactly
fucking what is it? What is that movie with like the dreams and the dreams and the dreams?
Oh gosh, is it
Inception? It's Inception.
Yeah.
None of it is real. It's all ideas. It's all bullshit. But I think even we started off talking about being seen and love is being seen.
Yeah.
What about seeing yourself and how hard that is? That in and of itself is so fucking hard.
Well, yeah, it is. And so how are you going to have someone else? So then the next step after that is like allowing someone to see you and love you, so if you can't do that for yourself, it's going to be even more hard. But look, you can't heal relationship wounds you can only heal them in relationship.
Yeah. There's only so much you can do by yourself.
Yeah. So and there's a lot, I've been doing a lot of inner work the last couple of years. It's been it's been a kind of a shit. We can cuss. I've been cussing this whole time.
Oh, the podcast is called Birds and Bees Don't Fuck.
Which I have a question about that. I know I'm blonde and everything, but they don't, is that literally true?
They don't fuck each other.
Okay. But how do they?
So,
bees, I get, but okay, but
yeah, because bees don't fuck. Bees have a different process.
Yeah, I get the bees, but the
birds do fuck each other, but birds and bees don't fuck.
The
you know what I mean? Let's talk about because if you think about that childhood conversation, it's let's talk about the birds and the bees.
Yes.
What the fuck is there to talk about?
But
they have completely different processes.
Fuck the bees.
The birds don't fuck the bees.
Okay, I didn't know that till just now. This is deeper.
I think it has to do with flowers and pollination and vaginas, vulvas. They're not vaginas, they're fucking vulvas. Vulvas being like flowers and the bees pollinating the flowers. I don't know what the birds have to do with that actually.
I don't know either.
That's the bees part.
I actually don't know.
It doesn't make any fucking sense. Yeah. That's why I was driving one day and I was like, birds and bees don't fuck. The fuck is that? And then I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to do a show.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing title. But I was like,
it's hilarious.
What? I was like, about it before. I was like, wait, am I just not good at biology? Like, wait, what's happening? It's like, okay, but birds do, but they don't fuck each other. And like, there's no relationship to their kind of fucking to
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are we?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Why are we so afraid to
The
tell
birds and the
children
bees.
that some people have penises and some people have vulvas and vaginas and, like.
Yeah. And I will say on this animal kick, I'm not afraid, but that's fine. No, on the animal kick, this is an issue. When we get back to like my particular learning about sex, I grew up on a farm, so it was a ranch, and so there were, animals were my first like entree to what sex was, and so it was somewhat normalized there, but no one talked about it.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like I kind of learned from nature. That's kind of been my touchstone in my own sexual journey, is the nature of myself. Because I'm primal. I describe myself as primal. And so if it feels good and it's coming out of my body in an authentic way, then I trust it.
Yeah.
So that's been a touchstone before I knew anything. Like, and you can that's why I tell people, like, look, feel in your body. Like, does this feel like, because your body knows, the body keeps the score, the body knows what's going on. So paying attention to that, I think, is really important.
We're also conditioned to ignore that.
Yes.
Especially in our formative years by parents and teachers, because think about how often a kid is like, well, I don't want to go hug that person, or I don't want to go do this thing. And then your parent is like, well, you have to go do it. You got to do it anyway.
Oh, the hugging thing.
The hugging thing. But just generally speaking, I mean, we talk about this a lot in intimacy coordinating, and especially as actors, because actors are taught to, anyone new in production is taught, like, you can't say no, but especially actors. The whole thing with actors, and especially if you study improv, is yes and. So how do you even know that it's okay to say no in a culture of yes and? It's very, very hard to deprogram that. But when you're thinking about just general humanity, at different parts in our childhood, we were all taught to override those physical feelings. We were taught, to override it in all these different ways, because we had adults telling us, don't worry, that's fine. This is fine. This is fine. Instead of helping us explore, okay, well, what are you feeling right now? Why do you think you're feeling that way? Like, what is it like in your belly? Like, what is,
if we want to talk, so a lot of what I coach is the dom sub dynamic, domination, submission, right? And we can get into like more specifics, like in the basics of that. But I look at that's a healthy, consensual leader follower thing. But we dominate our children.
Yes.
Same with colonialism, imperialism. So it's like, and so what happens is when I teach femdoms, women and non-binary how to dom, a lot of times they want to avoid power because they've seen it being used as to dominate and control, and they don't want to have anything to do with that, right? And I try to say, there's so many ways to dominate as a femme, like just all sorts, as anybody. And yes, we dominate we're dictators to our children. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So how can you possibly learn bodily autonomy,
Right.
the signs that are coming up that you can say no, that no is an option to you,
right.
when you're not learning that as a child, when the examples in front of you are that you don't have that autonomy and you don't have that ability to say no, and you don't have that ability.
And look,
because authority figures all around you are saying, well, you have to because I said so.
Right. And then you're
because
shamed if
I'm
you're not
the adult.
So look at the actor situation. Like, they're kind of treated as the lower end of the totem pole when they actually have some of the more powerful aspects of what's going on in the creation process, right? But look at the actor strike. It's sort of this like shaming nature of like shaming people for asserting a boundary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's
that's why intimacy coordinators are there, so that we can we can
Right.
establish and hold those boundaries so that you as the actor don't have to.
Yeah.
So that we can break up the power dynamics, because there are power dynamics. And something that I also speak to a lot is that even within intimacy coordinating, there's still a power dynamic, because they're all freelancers. And I don't know how comfortable people are with me saying that, but it's the fucking truth.
Wait a minute. Wait, the power dynamic.
Because ICs are still hired by the UPM and producer.
Okay.
Therefore, there is still a power dynamic. So if the person as an intimacy coordinator is not strong enough in their own boundaries to be hired for jobs, because it's the same dynamic for every single person on that cast and crew. We are dealing with the same fucking thing. So if you are not able to really navigate that yourself and push back when you need to push back in a way that is it's hard to say the right way to push back, but there is a right way to push back. I mean, given my last 3 years of experience, I know very well all about pushing back on producers and, EPs and actors and all of that stuff. Not that ICs should ever be pushing back on an actor, but I'm saying in terms of the person who's hiring you, there's still that dynamic at play. So that's something that like I like to call out, because if you are wanting to be an intimacy coordinator, and you see that a UPM or a producer is pushing back on someone's personal boundaries, you at that point you can't care whether that person's going to hire you again. You have to, in a manageable and an appropriate and professional way, you have to be able to support your cast in keeping to those boundaries and not allowing someone to push you around.
Yeah, as a safety professional, in my opinion, and I don't know much about it quite yet, but you act as kind of a fiduciary and an intermediary. So in that sense, like, you should never be able to be fired. So I don't know, like on a job or whatever, because they could just fire a safety person and get them off and get someone who will be a yes person. So there's got to be some sort of, I don't know how we fix that, but you're right. And so that's about standing up to power.
Yeah, it is.
Like, yeah.
The whole position is about breaking up that power. It is about breaking up those power dynamics, but we don't have that in life. We have to learn that ourselves in life. Yeah. So where did your kink education start?
My kink education? I just started fucking everyone.
Love that. Learning on the job.
Honestly, look, I know that sounds trite, but it's
true.
The
truth. I mean, that is how we learn,
Yeah. So it wasn't like I probably could have been more responsible. I mean, I did it as safely as I could. I just started playing, jumped into the ocean of it and started playing and trying different things at an intense pace for a short amount of time, like my year of fucking dangerously. But there's a legacy of play partners that they'll teach you in the community of what's right. And sometimes how you learn is to get something wrong.
Yeah.
And that's why we'd call it risk aware. There's something called safe, sane, and consensual, SSC, and then risk aware consensual kink. And I have a background in the law. And so to me, I like tell people, like, well, look at your level of risk, assess it, talk about it, and then like go for it within those boundaries. Then you do aftercare and debriefing, and you go, oh gosh, that just be prepared. There might be an oopsie. I like to call them oopsies, so we kind of de-escalate, not to discount any crossing of boundaries, but we're dealing with consensual adults. But anyway, yeah, that's I just did a lot of it. That's how I learned. And only after my experiential knowledge did I start like reading and listening and looking at different resources. Yeah.
And what was it that made you want to start doing that and really stepping into coaching and writing about it?
I just fell ass backwards. I just fell into it. I really think it happens with a lot of sexuality professionals.
It's true.
I mean, look, as a writer, I mean, I write. So as a writer, if something changes my life, I want to share it. Like you want to share it, like, and so BDSM in particular, that power exchange, like that portion of BDSM in particular changed my life.
Yeah.
And I learned about my own like feminine energy through that and all sorts of things. And so I just started informally teaching, fem subs in like a little classes, like cocktail hour at somebody's house, and I just like, and then one of my longtime playmates, we're both switches. I was working with a life coach, and he's like, my life coach said, what do you love? And I said sex. And so he's like, I should be a BDSM coach. I'm like, oh, okay. So he was the one that really wanted to start coaching couples in BDSM. And so we started that process, but then we had to sort of part ways for personal reasons. And then I just was like, okay, I guess I'm doing this. And I brought on a couple other coaches, and I've been teaching and coaching ever since. So that's just kind of what happens. And I've really enjoyed it. And one of my favorite things to do is to watch people, blossom, I think, and start to own parts of themselves that they hadn't before, and like watch couples come together in a particular way. And, eradicate a lot of the shame, that the conditioning that we've been talking about. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, and it is a beautiful thing to watch people blossom into themselves in any way. I mean, whether that's in the bedroom, in relationship,
Yeah.
in their profession, in their art or whatever. It's one of my favorite things to witness is just like watching. I mean, that is as much as I fucking hate Instagram. Like, I do love it for that reason because
Did
it
you
is
see
the
people?
space to see people. I just wish that we weren't so reliant on it. I wish, like I started a Substack. I haven't had the capacity to like start writing in it.
Well, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
follow you.
Yeah. Well, I have two. I have one that's inside the champagne womb that's going to be more of like personal stories and reflections and stuff like that. But then I also have Birds and Bees Don't Fuck, which is where I'm going to put all of like my sex education stuff. And eventually I'll put like these things up there. So,
where did champagne womb come from? What is that?
This shit is about comedy for me. So this is when I was in a sketch group and we were pitching names. And I thought one of the names on my list was No Sex in the Champagne Womb. And I thought it was fucking hilarious. It is. See, it's fucking hilarious.
No sex in the
yeah. Okay. And so we wound up going with a different name, which was also one of my suggestions. It was Jane Fonda's Cellmates.
Jane Fonda's Cellmates?
Yeah. We were an all-female team, which is like so super rare. This is at Second City.
Oh, yeah.
We were all female.
Gosh.
And a lot of us had been together. It was part of our grad review. And so at the end of the program, you're putting together a sketch show. And so that was our grad review. And it just wound up that we were all women. And so many of us had been together since the very first class or the second class. Like it was something really magical. And our show actually got extended and then the pandemic shut it down.
Oh, shoot.
But I wanted to, from that, I guess I'll make like a weird announcement here, actually.
Ooh,
so this is exciting. So from that, I really wanted to do a comedy show that integrated burlesque and pole and like sex and comedy, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just perfect for that. Pandemic hit and I was like, oh, maybe I'll make it like an Instagram account and I'll just do videos. That became too much. So I gave up. I kind of walked away from it. I did start doing my own sex ed videos and awesome. They are still on this YouTube that is the same feed. And I was like, oh, the Daily Show, but for sex. Like I really was like the idea. And so I kept playing with the name Champagne Womb. And my partner at the time was like, well, why don't you just do your pole dancing all under that? And I was like, okay, great. And so I was thinking that I had been planning up until this point pretty much to put on a show called No Sex in the Champagne Womb or calling it Inside the Champagne Womb. One day I really want to open up a burlesque theater, like burlesque pole theater and like sex ed center. Like I'm going to need millions of dollars for that. So hit me up if you're an investor.
Here to here. We're bringing it in.
That's like a long-term goal, but
love it.
But what I'm actually going to wind up doing, I'm not going to use the name Champagne Womb. I'm just going to do it under Birds and Bees Don't Fuck. And we are going to be doing a live show in January.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I am aiming for that to be January 3rd because that's an important day for me. So, and it falls on a Wednesday, which is when this show is released. Ooh. So, and it is going to basically be, it's going to be kind of the Daily Show, but for sex, but it's going to be this show with a comic. I want them to do a set, and then we're also going to have performers there. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Are you going to like, if it's Daily Show, are you going to do like up next in sex news, like the latest?
No, I mean, it's still going to be like a late night format because I'm going to be
interviewing.
I'm going to do like a little bit of a monologue intro kind of thing, not super long because the show, I'm a proponent of hour-long shows. So yeah, so that's in the Champagne Womb it's all coming together, but
integrated.
Yeah. But then we're going to air, like I'm going to air the episode here and people will be able to, watch it like behind a paywall. They can buy tickets for the show that way or whatever.
Nice.
So future plans. But speaking of hour-long episodes, we're coming to the end of ours.
Okay.
So with my sexuality professionals, it's silly to give you a pop quiz. So for you instead, is there something that you want to leave people with that you wish more people knew? Like a sexy fun fact or just like words of wisdom, something that you see come up with your clients that's just like,
oh God,
your little tidbit.
Oh gosh, it's hard to put a button, like to give you a button. Can I do a serious one and a?
You can do whatever you want.
Okay, I can do whatever I want. Now, I can't take credit for this, but I do teach this to my clients. This is one little thing. It's not even dom subby. It's about rimming. It's about, licking someone's ass. I got this from the show Billions, but when you're down there licking that area, someone's ass, it is like you're saying, I love all of you.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is like right down in there. So I love that. And then the serious one is like, the truth is fucking sexy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Tell the truth. Tell the scariest truth. Tell this truth. Yes.
Yeah. Transparency is pretty much my boundary. That's it. If we can be transparent, we can work around everything else. So,
and I want to know.
I love that. Yeah.
When I'm with someone, I want to know.
Yeah. So, being seen, baby.
Being seen.
Yeah. Totally the name of this episode.
Being seen, but behind.
Yeah. I love it. No, I love the irony of that. Where can people find you?
Well, we're on Instagram at the Dom Sub Coaches. You can also find us at thebdsmcoaches.com. And we have a sister site that we have our educational materials, thekinkfix.com.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that's where you can find us.
I love that. We'll put both of them in the show notes as we do. If you like this episode, thank you for listening first and foremost. Please give us a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. This is a literal baby podcast in its infancy, and I need all of the help I can get. So subscribe, send this to a friend, send this to your partner, send this to anybody that you think could be a kinky fun friend, or someone who has struggled with the whole Instagram thing, because they will relate to this episode. This episode, is this going to be around the Gentleman's Drive? It might be, so I'm just going to plug it anyway. September 24th worldwide, there's something called the Distinguished Gentleman's Drive, where people get all dapper, dressed in their finest attire, usually period attire, driving their pre-1980s vehicles, raising money for men's mental health, suicide prevention, prostate cancer, and testicular cancer research. If you would like to donate, or if you want to sign up wherever you are, I'm the host of Los Angeles's drive, but we're doing drives again all over the world. Even if this is after September 24th, we do keep donations open through, I think Halloween is usually when we keep donations open to. So you can go visit my Instagram account at Babes in Classics. That's Babes IN Classics. You can sign up. You can register if this is I think this is going to be after September, so whatever. But you can also donate. You can learn more. Just go ahead over there. It's a great cause. It's a great day. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. It was fantastic. It was so fun.
I knew. It was so fun to get to hang out with you. Yeah. So much more to come. Yep. But that's it. Thank you,